Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for tuning in for another episode. I am a couple hours away from leaving for the Potomac River. Just finished rigging up the last couple rods and putting them in the boat right now. So I figured I would do a quick video to kind of walk you through what I think are going to be the best baits going into practice. And as we've seen this year, my pre-practice predictions have not really panned out that good. And with several of our tournaments, I've kind of gone completely the other way once the practice period was over. So you never know. You got to be willing to change. But I will also say that with several of the tournaments, I did pick the baits that ended up being the productive baits for me in the tournament. And part of that could also come down to the fact that I've got probably 25 different rods rigged up. And from that standpoint, there is a good chance that I will have something tied on that works. But the Potomac is going to be one of those tournaments where you're going to have to catch them to do well. Most anglers will probably have 11 to 13 pounds. Generally, catching a limit is not usually the most difficult thing to do. It's catching those 3+ pounders that are going to get you above the 13-pound mark. For me, it's the type of place where I feel like I've done well in the past. I just haven't gotten those big bites. And if you don't get those big bites, you get stuck in the middle of the pack pretty easily. So hopefully in this tournament, we can catch a couple big ones each day, move us up into, way up the standings, and we can have another top 20 finish like we've had all year so far. And if I can do that, I should really solidify my points in a pretty good position to make the BPT at that point. So we really want to come out of there with a good tournament. I'm excited to get there. I've been there a bunch of times. I feel like I know what I need to do. It's shallow grass fishing. It's current base fishing. It's right up my alley. So I'm looking forward to it. And because of that, the bait choices are going to be pretty typical power fishing techniques. When you've got a tide that fluctuates roughly 2 feet, that means if you were fishing 2 foot of water at low tide, it's going to be 4 foot of water at high tide. So even though you're shallow water fishing, a lot of times you do want to change the bait selection to match the tide that you're fishing. Generally speaking, your top waters and your frogs work better in low water periods. And then some of your pitching baits, your dragging baits, your moving baits tend to work better in high water conditions. So I've got a little of both rigged up here. I'm going to walk you through the different setups that I have. Now, keep in mind, I will be very quick to change if I feel like I need to in practice, especially from a color standpoint. But if we're going to cover some of the water and try to locate groups of fish, you almost have to go there with the idea that you're going to power fish for a good chunk of the time, trying to cover a lot of water. And some of the best baits to do that anytime you're fishing grass are your chatterbaits like this guy right here. This is actually the Mini Max. I do have another full-size chatterbait rigged up as well, but this is the Mini Max in black and blue, and then I've got a Berkeley Power Stinger, the little 3.5 incher right there, in a red color. So it is kind of odd, but I will tell you, I've had a lot of success this year with black and blue skirts mixed up with this red Power Stinger on the back. So I'm going to try that right off the bat. I also have another one that's a green pumpkin colored one rigged up. The other kind of old staple there is a swim jig. And in this case, I've got a purple and black swim jig with a little bit of purple Flashaboo mixed in there. I've got a big flapper trailer on the back because a lot of times you're talking about mimicking more aggressive fish. If you're talking about river fishing, if you're dirtier water river fishing, like you get a lot of times with the Potomac River, a lot of times with La Crosse, generally what that means is you got to create some extra vibration to get those fish's attention. And a lot of times when you find them, they're very aggressive fish. So I went with one with a little bigger flappers, but I also have another one rigged up. So I've got 2 chatterbaits, 2 swim jigs, and then I've also got a swimming worm. This is a big Zoom speed worm. This is the Magnum size, but I may switch down to a smaller one right off the bat. It kind of depends on what the conditions are when I get there, how aggressive the fish are in. But those 3 baits really do a good job at covering a lot of water. If we're talking about fishing some of our hard targets during high tide period, that's when I'm going to go with something along the lines of a square bill crankbait. This is one I bought specifically for this place. This is a Lucky Craft Silent. I talked about this in an earlier video in a blue craw color, which I think could be good there. Another good bait for fishing high tide, if you're fishing hard targets, is a jig. So in this case, I've just got a little compact jig with a 3-inch Berkley Pit Boss on the back. That's something to throw at some of the laydowns, some of the dock posts, really any target that I can find that might have some water on it. And then last but not least, like I said, I think there's going to be a really good topwater bite, whether that's frogs. So I do have a frog tied on, but then I've also got 2 topwaters. I've got my old reliable. This is the Berkley Spin Rocket. And then I've got a all black little Rebel Popar. And in both these cases, you know, with all these baits, you probably notice, at least with a lot of them, that I've got the hooks turned in. And that's so I don't catch the fish. I don't want to catch them in practice. I want to go back and catch them in the tournament. So those 2 baits. And then I do have a couple of spinning rods for more finesse presentations. Generally speaking there, I have had really good luck fishing a wacky rig. So I've got a wacky rig not quite on yet, but I do have just a rubber O-ring tied on, as you can see right there. And then when I get there, I'll slide on a fresh Berkley Max Scent the General. I don't want that kind of losing some of its scent over the next couple of days. So I'll put that on. Generally speaking, that's a really good bait to throw around anywhere you go. And then I also feel like a hover rig is going to be a good place. So I've got a hover rig tied on. Right now it's with a smelt colored Max Scent Berkley Flatworm, but I could definitely see switching that at some point there. But I do think that that could come into play too, especially for fishing some weed line edges, as well as throwing to potentially some of those hard targets. But this is going to be one, as much as I feel like the Potomac is a good fishery, there's usually groups of fish, I always feel like it's junk fishing. And I think a lot of that is because you've got that current that's always fluctuating, you've got the water level that's fluctuating, and because of that, you're kind of switching between a lot of different targets, whether that's grass or hard targets. And therefore, you feel like you're always changing rods. And a lot of times, if you do end up in a group of boats, you feel like you got to rotate a bunch of baits to try to show the fish something that they haven't seen from some of the other competitors. So this is a place that I'm looking forward to getting to. I feel like I've got a little bit of revenge with this place, so I'm excited to get there. I'm excited to hopefully get out of here with another good tournament and try to move up the point standings. That's what it's all about. I'll put links to all these in the video description in case you guys want to check out some of them. Other than that, guys, thanks for watching. Stay tuned. We'll have a bunch of practice videos and tournament recap videos. So if you're not subscribed to the channel, I highly recommend subscribing so that you can be notified anytime a new video comes out. Thanks for watching, guys.